Just because you have the right to do something does not mean it's the right thing for you to do. Alright, so Americans are incredibly interesting people. As Americans, we always venerate our rights and our liberty and all of our freedoms, but very few people really truly understand some of the rights that we all take for granted. So, I'm going to give you three rights that I think Americans misunderstand and three rights that I think should be strengthened. So, first right that I think Americans misunderstand is the right to bear arms. You know, I cannot tell you how many times, as a gun owner myself, I've had conversations with other gun owners who completely leave out the part about the well regulated militia. Look, I own guns, I own rifles, pistols, what are considered assault rifles, and nowhere in my history, no one I know is part of a militia. I own guns because I happen to like the sport of shooting guns, but absolutely, it is not an absolute right. Let me give you an example. So, some people will say, well, we need to be able to own all types of guns in order to repel a tyrannical government. So, if they have these things, we should have them too. By that logic, the U.S. government has M1A1 Abrams tanks and Predator drones. I don't think anyone can argue that the average citizen should have that too. So that's right number one. Completely misunderstood. No one gets it. It's one of those things where, look, I own weapons, but I do not believe it's gospel. So that's one of those easily misunderstood rights. Right number two, the right to free speech. Everyone says it's a free country. I can do what I want. I can say what I want. Absolutely true. And we've all heard the famous example that, yes, right to free speech does not extend to the right to yell fire in a crowded theater, which we can kind of all agree on. But then there are so many similar moments in modern life that we use our speech for that are incendiary, and people seem to just claim free speech. You're canceling me. You're canceling me. Your right to free speech does not mean you can go on a social media platform and say just about anything you want and they can't kick you off. Those are private companies, and if you violate their terms of service or terms of use and they feel like they want to kick you off, your right to free speech does not extend to them. That's something that protects you against government censure, but you can be, censored and all that other stuff in regular life. You can be censored by your employer, by social media platforms, by your parents when you're growing up as a kid. Your right for free speech is not absolute, and it is a lot more limited than most Americans really realize. Right number three, the right to free assembly. You know, so many people they say, well, what happened on January 6th was people just, well, one senator said it was like a normal tourist visit, but even if you take some people at their words, when you see these big rallies and big marches, if you're not permitted in a lot of places, you can't just pop up outside people's private homes and throw up a storm and fit and be there. Someone can call the police on you and have you removed. Okay, so the right to free assembly and the right to protest is a very important right in our country. I support that right, whether you are on the right, the left. If you're a member of the KKK and you want to go down Main Street and say whatever you want, if you're a member of the those funny black Israelite folks you see in a lot of major cities in America who are there just screaming at the top of their lungs about the white man and this and that, I support all of that good stuff. Black lives. I am a fan of you being able to do all of that, but understand that if you're not permitted, you can't just show up anywhere you want and say, I'm protesting or anything like that. That's not an absolute right. Now, three rights that I do think should absolutely be strengthened. Firstly, consumer protections. I do think those should be basic rights. Some of these rights that to be strengthened, I'm not sure if there's a constitutional amendment for a lot of these, but these are rights that we kind of that are implied in our society that I think should be completely strengthened. I believe we should have better consumer protection in this country. In a sense that in America, a company can sell you a product that's not really good for you and get away with it for years and years and years. They can sell you high sugary, high fat items, and you gain a bunch of weight. You have a whole generation of people that are overweight because they eat garbage food, and the packaged food, the fast food industry, they don't have an incentive to give you good quality meals. So that's one thing. Another right as well is the right to actual privacy. When I mean privacy, I mean data collection on the internet. I was talking to someone recently, and we were discussing that. You ever notice that sometimes you're just having a regular conversation, and Siri will search something or pick up on something that you said and give you pop up a result, or Alexa or something like that. And all that data is collected and sold, and I think you should have the right to control that, and to say, I don't want my information shared. If they want, do it the old fashioned way, work for it, call me, make me take a survey, but it shouldn't be automatic. Yes, there's some benefits for it, and everyone kind of gives up that information for free anyway, but at least go through the pomp and circumstance of asking me for it and getting it from me the old fashioned way. Right number three that I think should be absolutely a right. It is not a right in the United States, but it should absolutely be a right, is the right to fair housing. In America, it used to be that if you had a car in the driveway, if you had two cars in the driveway and a home, the combined value of the two cars was more than the house, because a home was seen as something that you need it as a basic, right? Humans need food, shelter, clothing. The house was just seen as that way. Now, houses are more commodities nowadays, so you can have a home in San Francisco, a two-bedroom home for $900,000. Where I'm from in New York City, you need an arm, a leg, your best friend's liver, just to afford a home. And that's only because of speculation. I think I'm not saying that we should be communist China or the USSR, where everyone gets a tiny little apartment somewhere at birth. But I do believe that we should have programs where, look, if you're a developer and you're developing, you should have a partnership with the city or the town, so that homes are less commodities and more, shelter and places you raise your family and children in. Now, I know that last one's a little bit controversial because that requires a complete paradigm shift on how we look at those things, but I think doing that would actually shape a better society for all of us. So that's my list of three things three rights I think we fundamentally misunderstand as Americans, and three rights or that we either have or I wish were strengthened. Anyway, let me know what you think.